Okay, so first, like, it was really about celebrating each other's catalog. Me and that nigga talk back there, bro. This shit, I ain't just called a nigga out the blue. Me and that nigga talk about this.
You talking about you were 50?
Yeah, man, we talk about this shit, man. This shit just come out of nowhere.
Because if you're telling, you can't even look forward to going home.
It's just gonna be hell.
Where you going after you get out? The neighborhood ain't accepting that. You bitch ass nigga, we heard you's a rat. Look, even for me personally, my character, they would try to attack my character. They'll say he a rat or he just a snap.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is ask him who I told him.
Alright, so let me get this straight. The internet was already packed with chaos, people arguing over everything, timelines moving like a race. And then 50 Cent decided to casually drop a documentary leak like it was nothing. Not a teaser. Not a preview. A whole episode 1 just thrown out there like, yeah, deal with it. And the target, T.I., yeah. You already know this wasn't about to be quiet, because when 50 Cent makes a move like this, it's never random. It's calculated. It's loud, and it always hits harder than people expect. 1 minute everything is normal, and the next minute, boom. A full documentary episode floating around the internet, and everybody trying to figure out what they just watched and why it even happened. And the reactions? Oh, they weren't calm. People weren't just commenting. They were reacting. Like this was breaking news. Some fans called it devastating, others said it crossed a line, and a lot of people were just confused, sitting there like, wait, did this really just happen? Because it didn't feel like regular content, it felt personal. Clips started spreading instantly. People replaying moments, pausing, zooming in, trying to catch every detail like it meant something bigger. Memes popped up within minutes, but even behind the jokes, you could feel the tension. Because when something hits like this, it doesn't stay surface level. It goes deeper, and here's the part that really makes it wild. This doesn't feel like the whole story. This feels like the beginning of something bigger, something that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. Because a move like this, yeah. It's not just content, now let's rewind this entire situation. Because something like this doesn't just happen out of nowhere. A move like leaking a full documentary episode isn't random, it's not accidental, and it definitely isn't. Something you do without knowing exactly what kind of reaction it's going to create. This is the kind of moment that builds quietly in the background before it suddenly explodes into the spotlight. For a long time, both 50 Cent and T.I. have been major names with strong personalities and even stronger reputations. These aren't just artists, they're figures who know how to control attention, how to stay relevant, and how to make sure the spotlight never fully leaves them. And when two names like that get connected in any kind of situation, people are going to pay attention instantly. Now what makes this moment different is the way it happened. This wasn't a planned release with promotion, trailers, and a build-up to get fans excited. This felt sudden, almost disruptive, like something dropped without warning. 1 minute everything was normal, and the next minute people were watching. Something that didn't feel like it was meant to be out yet, and that's where the curiosity started building. Because people weren't just watching the documentary, they were questioning it. Why was this released like this? Why now? And more importantly, what was the intention behind it? Because when something feels this unexpected, people don't just accept it. They try to understand the reason behind it. At the same time, the content itself started becoming a topic of discussion. Fans weren't just reacting to the fact that it was leaked, they were reacting to what they saw inside it. Certain moments stood out, certain clips felt heavier than expected, and the overall tone left people feeling like there was more going on than what appeared on the surface. Some people described it as revealing, others called it uncomfortable, and some went as far as saying it felt like it exposed things that weren't meant to be public. And that's what made the reaction so strong, because it didn't feel like light entertainment. It felt like something personal. Meanwhile, the internet did what it always does in moments like this. It started digging, people began breaking down every second of the episode, analyzing specific scenes, discussing certain lines, and trying to figure out what was actually being said versus what was being implied. Because in situations like this, the details matter, and fans love finding details. And as more people watched and discussed it, the conversation kept growing. Some believed this was a strategic move, something designed to create attention and spark conversation. Others thought it was something deeper, something tied to past tensions or unresolved situations that haven't been fully addressed publicly. And then there were those who felt like this wasn't just about the documentary at all. That it was part of a bigger narrative that hasn't fully been revealed yet. At the same time, reactions from different corners of the internet started adding more layers to the situation. Some people defended the move, saying it's just part of the entertainment world and nothing more. Others criticized it, saying it crossed a line and shouldn't have been done this way. And just like that, the internet split into different perspectives. One side saw it as bold and strategic. The other saw it as unnecessary and potentially damaging. And in the middle of all that, more questions, because the more people talked about it, the less clear things became. Every new opinion added another angle, another interpretation, another possibility. Instead of getting answers, the situation just kept becoming more complicated. At the same time, the timing of the leak became another major talking point. Because nothing in situations like this is ever truly random. The moment something drops matters just as much as what actually drops. And people started asking why this happened right now. Was it to shift attention? Was it to create buzz? Or was it connected to something else happening behind the scenes that we don't fully see yet? Those questions didn't have clear answers. But they kept the conversation going. And as the conversation grew, so did the intensity. Because now this wasn't just about watching a documentary. It became about understanding a situation. It became about figuring out what's real, what's intentional, and what might be happening beyond what's visible. And once a situation reaches that point, it stops being simple. It turns into a story. A story that people follow, analyze, and keep coming back to because they feel like there's something more to uncover. And that's exactly where we are right now, because what started as a sudden leak has now turned into a full-blown narrative that people are trying to piece together. Every reaction, every discussion, every theory adds another layer to it. But here's the thing. This is only the beginning. Because once something like this starts gaining momentum, it doesn't just stay at this level, and just like that, the situation didn't just stay intense. It completely spiraled into something that felt way bigger than a documentary leak. Because the moment people finished watching episode 1, the internet didn't calm down. It got louder, messier, and way more chaotic than anyone expected. Now, let's talk about the reactions, because these weren't normal reactions. People weren't just saying, this was good or this was bad. No, they were breaking it down like it was evidence in a case. Every scene, every line, every moment got analyzed from every possible angle. And somehow everyone walked away with a different interpretation. Some viewers said it was revealing, like it showed sides of T.I. that people don't usually see. Others said it felt uncomfortable, like certain parts crossed a line that shouldn't have been crossed. And then there were those who believed it wasn't just about storytelling at all, that it felt like something more intentional, and that's where things started getting really messy. Because once people started questioning the intention behind the leak, everything changed. It wasn't just about what was shown anymore. It became about why it was shown. And when that question enters the conversation, things don't stay simple for long. Meanwhile, memes started taking over timelines like wildfire. People turned serious moments into jokes, dramatic scenes into punchlines, and somehow managed to make the situation both entertaining and chaotic at the same time. But even behind the humor, you could feel the tension still sitting there, because no matter how much people joked about it, the situation didn't feel light. It felt heavy. And that's what kept people watching, talking, and coming back for more. At the same time, the internet started splitting into even more sides. You had people defending 50 Cent, saying this was a smart move, a way to grab attention and control the narrative. Then you had others calling it out, saying it felt unnecessary, even disrespectful depending on how you looked at it. And right in the middle of all that, confusion. Because both sides had arguments that made sense, and that made it harder for people to decide what they actually believed. It wasn't a clear situation where one perspective completely dominated the other. It was layered, complicated, and constantly shifting. Then came another wave of reactions. Influencers and public figures stepping into the conversation. Some dropped subtle comments, others spoke more directly. But either way, they added more fuel to a fire that was already burning out of control. You had cryptic posts like, everything ain't what it seems, and timing always reveals the truth. And even though names weren't always mentioned, the internet already knew exactly what they were about. And of course, those posts only made people dig even deeper. Now the conversation wasn't just about the documentary itself. It became about the bigger picture because people started asking questions that went beyond the content. Questions about timing, motive, strategy, and what might be happening behind the scenes. And once those questions start circulating, the story takes on a whole new life. At the same time, new clips from the episode kept circulating, and each clip seemed to spark a new debate. One moment would go viral. People would argue about it. Then another clip would surface and shift the entire conversation again. It was like the narrative kept changing in real time, and the more it changed, the more complicated it became, because now people weren't just reacting to one version of the story. They were reacting to multiple interpretations, multiple perspectives, and multiple possibilities. And when that happens, clarity disappears. Instead, you get speculation. And speculation? That's what keeps the internet alive. Meanwhile, T.I.'s name remained at the center of everything, whether he was actively responding or not. Every part of the conversation, every reaction, every debate, it all connected back to him in some way. And that made the situation feel even more personal. Because now it wasn't just about a leaked episode. It was about reputation. It was about image. It was about how people perceive what they saw. And once those elements get involved, things don't just stay online. They start affecting how people think in real time. Then came another twist. People started revisiting older moments, past interviews, previous situations, trying to connect them to what they saw in the documentary. And the more they looked, the more connections they thought they found. Now whether those connections were real or just assumptions, that didn't matter, because once people believe they found a pattern, they run with it, and that's exactly what happened. Suddenly, this wasn't just about episode 1 anymore. It became about everything, the past, the present, and what this could mean for the future. And the craziest part? We're still only at the beginning, because if episode 1 created this level of reaction, this level of debate, this level of chaos, what do you think happens next? Because this doesn't feel like a one-time moment. It feels like a setup for something bigger, something more revealing, something that hasn't fully unfolded yet. And once that next piece drops, and just when, people thought the chaos had reached its peak, the aftermath came in and proved that this situation was far from over. Because instead of things calming down, instead of the conversation fading away like most viral moments do, everything shifted into a new phase that felt even more unpredictable. At first, people expected the usual pattern. Big reaction, a few days of discussion, then the internet moves on to something else. But that didn't happen here. This situation stayed alive, and if anything, it started getting deeper with every passing moment. Because now it wasn't just about what was shown in episode 1. It was about what it meant. Every new reaction felt like it added another layer to the story. If someone defended 50 Cent, people questioned their motive. If someone criticized the leak, others pushed back and said they were overreacting. It turned into this cycle where every opinion created another debate. And every debate made the situation even more complicated. At the same time, the emotional side of the situation started becoming more visible. Because behind all the memes, jokes, and viral clips, there was a clear tension in how people were reacting. Some fans felt like the documentary revealed too much, while others believed it was simply showing a side of things that had always existed. And that divide? It didn't go away. It got stronger. Because once people form an opinion in a situation like this, they stick to it. And the more they defend that opinion, the harder it becomes to see things from another perspective. So instead of the conversation settling, it kept expanding in different directions. Meanwhile, the focus started shifting again. It wasn't just about the content of the documentary anymore. It became about the impact. What does this mean for T.I.? What does this say about 50 Cent? And how does this situation affect everything moving forward? Those questions didn't have clear answers, but they kept the conversation going. Because now, people weren't just reacting to what they saw. They were thinking about what comes next. And that's where things started getting really interesting. Because once people start thinking ahead, they begin connecting possibilities. What if there are more episodes? What if this is just the beginning of a bigger reveal? What if this was meant to spark a reaction that leads to something else entirely? And those what if questions They kept the momentum going. At the same time, subtle details started surfacing. Not big headlines, not major announcements, but small moments that made people pause. Certain clips being revisited, certain lines being interpreted differently, certain reactions being analyzed more closely, and once people started looking back, the narrative started shifting again because what seemed clear at first didn't feel as simple anymore. Some moments felt more intense than they originally appeared. Others felt like they carried meaning that people didn't catch the first time, and that realization changed how people viewed the entire situation. Now the conversation wasn't just about what happened. It became about what might have been missed. Because when something feels incomplete, people don't stop at the surface. They dig deeper, they rewatch, they question everything. And in doing that, they create even more possibilities. And those possibilities? They made the story even bigger. Meanwhile, the pressure around everyone involved continued to grow. Because in a situation this public, this talked about, this constantly evolving, there's no such thing as staying untouched. Whether directly or indirectly, everyone connected to it feels the impact. And that's when it became clear. This wasn't just a viral moment. It was a ripple effect. One action leading to another, one reaction creating another, one moment building into something much larger than anyone expected at the start. And once a situation reaches that point, it doesn't just end. It evolves. It continues. It transforms into something that keeps people watching because they feel like there's still more to uncover. And that's exactly where we are now, because even after all the reactions, all the debates, all the chaos, we still don't have full clarity. We still don't have complete answers. We're still trying to piece together a story that feels bigger than what's been shown so far. And that's what makes this situation so powerful, because it doesn't feel finished. It feels like the beginning of something else. Something that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. And if there's one thing this entire situation has proven, it's that what we see on the surface is only part of the story. Now listen. If you made it all the way through this, I already know your mind is doing backflips trying to process everything. Because what we just broke down? This wasn't just drama. This was a full-blown storyline with twists, tension, and enough chaos to keep the internet talking for days. One leak turned into a debate, that debate turned into confusion, and now we're all sitting here like, what's really going on? So go ahead and smash that like button like it owes you money, because clearly this situation just dragged us through a roller coaster with no warning and no seatbelt. Don't tap it lightly either. Hit it with the same energy 50 Cent had when he dropped that episode out of nowhere and shook the entire timeline. Now I need you down in the comments, because this is where things get interesting. Tell me what you think. Was this a smart move, or did it cross a line? Was this just entertainment, or is there something deeper happening behind the scenes that we're not fully seeing yet? And don't hold back. I want the hot takes, the theories, the wild opinions. I'll elevate. Because let's be real, everybody watching this has a different perspective. And that's what makes this whole situation even crazier. And if you're still watching and haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? This is Fame. Blueprint. This is where the drama gets unpacked, the chaos gets analyzed, and the stories everybody's confused about finally start making sense.